There you have the match stats of the game. Pretty much all in Chelsea's favor, and Chelsea now have booked themselves into another final. Right, let's welcome in Mark Ogden, who is live at the MetLife Stadium. Absolutely roasting Augie, but we're going to let you wait a little longer because I have to go to Stewart Robson, Robbo, Joao Pedro. Literally couldn't have asked for a more perfect start at Chelsea, and wow, those goals.
No, we've been talking about him, and was he going to be a better player than Delap would be? Delap obviously was suspended for this game. Was he going to be better than Jackson? Well, you can't answer it just in one game, but he certainly played brilliantly, didn't he, on those two moments. They didn't have a lot of the ball throughout the game, but he can play that little bit deeper, he can play wide. He was playing through the middle today, but you can't get a better start than that. Two fantastic strikes into the top corner and set everything up for Chelsea. They were the two big moments in the game.
Ale, you love those goals.
Well, of course I do. And if you're Joao Pedro, of course you do as well. You're sending a very strong message to Chelsea fans, to your teammates more importantly. You have come in the middle of the tournament, and let's not talk about the dynamics and the mechanics of actually a player being able to be signed in the middle of a tournament and playing for Chelsea and making a difference in which he has. That's besides the point. But I will say, as excited as Chelsea fans may be for Joao Pedro, if you're Nico Jackson, you're not nearly as excited.
No.
You're not nearly as excited. You were barely hanging on to begin with.
You were telling him to pack his bags after the first goal.
After the second goal is not only pack them, grab them, and go. The conversation about Nico Jackson has been regarding his finishing, his final product, his ability to score goals consistently. And based upon what we have seen from Joao Pedro in this one game, you kind of go, wait a minute. If we have that, and we're Chelsea, yeah, as much as we like the level of activity of Nico Jackson, he now is very, very vulnerable. They've already brought in Delap, and so we assume, of course, that he's not going anywhere. And if you need to make the numbers work, then Nico Jackson now, you have to say, he's really, really vulnerable. And whatever you think of him as a player, all of that now becomes exacerbated and highlighted and emboldened. So if you thought that he was inconsistent and you watch Joao Pedro, then you say, we don't need that inconsistency. We have a guy that can score goals. Now, that's after just one game. One outstanding game, two outstanding goals. We'll see if Joao Pedro can continue to do that.
One game against a defense that probably is subpar to what you can expect in the Premier League. But it is one game that Joao Pedro has been tasked with, and he delivered. The one thing I'd like to see of Joao Pedro in how he addresses how Chelsea play and the role that both Nico Jackson and Delap can play is with his back to goal, holding the ball up. I thought Nico Jackson, when he was good during a short spell during last season, he was very, very good at that, holding the ball up, waiting for midfielders to join in. Can Joao Pedro be that player? Again, time will tell. But what we've seen so far is, in terms of pure finishing, he is a player that Chelsea has not had for quite some time, the one that they've been looking for. He delivered. And now it's everybody else to ask those questions of themselves. Can they match what Joao Pedro offers in and around the box?
Well, I remember, of course, when we went to Chelsea training yesterday and we were speaking to Joao Pedro, and he was just, to me, saying all the right things, talking about his physicality, talking about how he likes to play, talking about how he feels that could set him apart from the average striker that he sees on Chelsea right now, and he definitely has done the talk and the walk. But Ale, I know you love celebrating your birthday, but you are a little bit of a celebration police, and we noticed that Joao Pedro didn't celebrate any of his goals, and that, look, he has a right reason. Fluminense is his boyhood club. He had about 5 goals there, 29 appearances before he went to Watford, Ale, but we would have liked to see even a little fist pump just to show that he's made his statement.
And it's your first goal, first couple of goals for your new club. It is, we assume, a big deal that you're doing this in the semifinal of a Club World Cup. I don't ever understand why players wouldn't celebrate when they score goals, but that's maybe because I had more difficulty scoring goals than Joao Pedro does. Maybe I appreciated the art of scoring goals a lot more than he does. I'm thinking that there was an opportunity here for him to connect with Chelsea fans, to connect with his teammates, because it was a big moment. It was a big deal, and certainly for him scoring this first couple of goals for his new club. But I sort of, kind of, maybe I can understand that, you know, I don't want to disrespect my old club. No, I don't understand any of it. No. This is an emotional connection. half of those people don't even remember that Joao Pedro played for Fluminense. In fact, people, as we were watching the game, did he used to play for Fluminense?
A whole 29 appearances means nothing to you, Alex?
What? No, it sure doesn't.
It sure doesn't.
No.
All right, well, speaking of the celebration police, let's go to Mark Ogden, shall we? Augie,
Well, he'll take care of that.
3 p.m. in July in an open-air stadium in New York. I couldn't think of a better place for you to thrive. But talk us through the atmosphere. It's something that we've been talking about so much at this Club World Cup. How did you find it?
Well, I was in a lovely air-conditioned press box, so I was watching everybody else outside getting really hot and bothered. But listen, I was on the train over here from Penn Station. There were lots and lots of Fluminense fans. They really made it a carnival kind of atmosphere. They were here in massive numbers. It felt like a good atmosphere. I think everyone kind of, enjoyed the game. And, to the point about Joao Pedro's celebration, I just want to add that he did have his kind of 7-8 years as a kid. He's from Rio. Sorry, he's from Brazil, should say. He played for Fluminense as a kid. He has got a connection to it, but I think he's definitely made a connection to the Chelsea fans today because they saw a player that is a different level to what they've had. He looks a cut above. He looks a better player than anything they've had up front for quite a while. Now, Nico Jackson, for me, looks like he's going to be the odd one out because the lap has just come in. They're not going to put the lap out on, up for sale already. So I think Delap and Joao Pedro are the two players that are going to take the striking positions next season. Nico Jackson may have to move on. Christopher Nkunku played well as well today, but I think we have to caveat all this by saying they were playing against, Fluminense, a team that, Thiago Silva at the back today was like playing an old-style sweeper. He was playing so deep that if you're a forward, you're just loving the opportunity to play against him because as experienced as he is, he just couldn't cope with the pace and the movement of the Chelsea forward. So I think we have to kind of put into context a little bit who Chelsea have played so far, and I think it'll be a step up at the weekend against Real or PSG. I think for me, Chelsea are heavy underdogs for that game, but Joao Pedro looks like he's definitely a cut above what they've got, and at £55 million, that's quite a decent deal for Chelsea. And I think today's prize money was £25 million alone, so he's paid back almost half his fee by getting to the final today.
So just a quick question. When Mark says that something is a carnival, is that bar lower than everybody else's? How much of a party is it if Mark says it's a carnival?
Well, if he says it must be a great carnival.
What does it take for it to be a carnival?
I tell you what, when Mark Ogden is off the clock, that man does know how to celebrate.
What?
But anyways, Fluminense almost had a chance to celebrate when they were awarded a penalty, Robbo. What did you think about that? Any questions?
Well, I'm usually somebody that says handball's given far too easily. But the ball came from quite a distance. It wasn't headed on by anybody else, I don't think. And I thought he should have got his body in line with it and controlled it on his stomach and then cleared it. It hits him on the arm. It's not in an unnatural position, but it did stop the ball going to the Fluminense centre forward. So I can understand why the referee gave it. And I would say, if I was the referee going to the screen again, I would probably have kept the penalty.
Shaka, what about you?
I can understand why the referee gave it, but I thought he was also right in overturning it. And to Robbo's point, the ball does come a long way. It just clears the head of a defender, just in front of was it Madueke?
Yeah.
And I thought his arm was down by his side, close enough to his side to warrant it being overturned or it being deemed in a natural position. And so I thought the referee was right to overturn.
Ale?
What was surprising is that once he gave the penalty, I didn't think there was enough there for him to be actually called into the VAR because it's a clear and obvious error from the referee. I don't think it qualifies as that. So I'm more leaning towards Robbo in saying that once he gave it, I thought, well, I don't think there's enough evidence here to overturn the call. But it takes a lot for the referee once he gets called to actually say, you know what, no. I'm backing myself. I made a call. I know what I saw. I'm going to give this as a penalty. While it may not be an unnatural arm position, that arm is kind of swinging away from the body and swinging in a way that impedes the progress of the play and impacts the progress of the play against Fluminense, and that's where I think it's a penalty.
Augie, going back to you now on the whole striker debate as well, especially with what we've seen now from Joao Pedro. I know it's still a little bit early, but look, who's going to be the big man up front for Chelsea is something we've been talking about for a couple of seasons now. Alan mentioned that some players like Nicholas Jackson may be feeling a little bit vulnerable. What about Christopher Nkunku? He didn't have the worst game today. He actually seemed to have a good game. And what about Madueke as well? We felt that they probably would be on their way out at Chelsea.
Well, I think Nani Madueke is probably on his way out. I think Arsenal's interest is strong, but if he doesn't go to Arsenal, somebody else will make a move. He's got decent pedigree. He's been in the England squad recently. And from Chelsea's perspective, as we know, they do like to get rid of players that have come through the ranks because it means they can class it as pure profit on their PSR situation. So Madueke, for me, I think his days are numbered. In terms of Nkunku, he's not had a great time at Chelsea for two and a half years now. And in January he could have left, but they, at the last minute, decided to keep him. He didn't really do anything at the end of last season, so you'd think again, time to move him on. But he did play well today. He's had a decent tournament, but this is a strange tournament. I don't think you can judge players on what's happened in this tournament because apart from the European teams that are playing against European teams, the level of opposition hasn't been the greatest. I think we'll find that when we get back to the Premier League and Champions League. I think this has felt like a pre-season warm-up at times, a pre-season tour. So let's not get carried away by saying that some of these players are going to get themselves back in the first team next season because they played well in this Club World Cup, because the level of competition has been, it's not been what they used to. But, Nkunku's done well and he's kind of raised his confidence. He's probably given Maresca the opportunity to say, I can do something with you next season. But definitely, Joao Pedro, for me, what I've seen so far in the space of a week, he's only been here a week, he's looked really good. And Delap has been a little bit disappointing, but again, I don't want to judge the guy on a tournament that he's just come in from a transfer. He doesn't know the squad yet. Let's give him time, but Joao Pedro's looked really good.
All right, well, if you look at Chelsea, actually, in their last 25 games, like I said, now they got through to another final. Of course, a lot of people will make the point that they probably got the more forgiving side of the draw, considering they didn't have to come up against the Bayern Munichs, the PSGs, or the Real Madrids. But if you look at their recent results in all competitions, they've not been perfect. It's not been pretty, Shaka. It's not been the champagne football we love. But they do manage to get the odd, ugly 1-0 win, 2-1 win here and there. So do you see Chelsea at least competing for titles next season, possibly even the Premier League?
Whatever you do, Alexis, don't become Chelsea's hype man.
Shaka,
that was the most unconvincing hyping of Chelsea.
I'm trying.
Boy.
I'm trying.
Listen, I don't think it's any surprise that this version of Chelsea isn't the Chelsea that we've come to know. They've been able to grind results out, particularly over the last season.
Which counts for something.
Well, yeah, sure does. Given what we saw of them season previous. But this is a Chelsea that's kind of limped over the last 2 or 3 years, both in terms of manager turnover, in terms of performances. Maresca seems to be getting things right. He got, again, results last season in orbit in Europa Conference League, finishes top 4. So they're on the path. But this is still a Chelsea that's a long way away from what we expect them to be, and I'm sure where their fans hope to see them this season. They've got there. There will be a test. Whoever wins that other semi-final between Real Madrid and PSG will be a far different test from what they've kind of experienced so far this season. But still, it's a test. This is still pre-season. We came into this not knowing what this tournament was to hold for any of these European clubs. I'm still of the opinion that it's a pre-season tournament.
How dare you?
How dare you?
There was a big problem, though, maybe at the end of the game, because their strongest players, I think, are in midfield. Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer. And the way he twisted his ankle, Caicedo, and he was dominant today. I mean, on one of the chance that Fluminense had, he didn't go with a runner off a 1-2, so he made a mistake there. But his general play was magnificent. He closed the ball down, he was dynamic. But that injury just before the end of the game might cause him 1 or 2 problems. He twisted his ankle quite badly there. But that's going to be key for Chelsea. That central midfield 3. If they can get a little bit better at the top end of the field and they can defend a little bit better at that end of the field, that midfield could dominate a lot of teams.
Yeah, I think Caicedo as well, when we spoke to him yesterday, he said he felt he was playing some of the best football of his life, but still a bit more to go. Ale, I have to come to you because I think this side, we were rooting for the Americas teams, but now it's Robbo's and Augie's people that have gone through the European clubs with Fluminense crashing out now. Of course, they're the ones that brought vibes. They brought life to the tournament. I think kind of inspired a lot of fans here to really follow football like we do in our countries now. But you always felt, even though Fluminense had the heart and the fans and the support, that this was just always going to be a step too far.
I just didn't think that Fluminense was the best Brazilian team in this competition. I thought Flamengo was, and in fact, Flamengo did beat Chelsea earlier in the Club World Cup. Now, regardless, what we were talking about Fluminense yesterday, what we have come to appreciate about this group is they know who they are as a team. But they depend very much on the ability of John Arias to be able to create chances for them in transition. And if he doesn't get on the ball enough, or if he doesn't get the ball in advanced positions, or if he doesn't have people running by him or beyond him so that he can find the next pass, then they become very limited. Again, I don't think that Fluminense was the strongest Brazilian team in this competition. And so the fact that they have made it this far was an accomplishment. In terms of who they could have been today, what might have been today, I think the game played out the way that we thought it would. Chelsea was going to dominate the ball for long periods of time. Fluminense was looking for counter-attack opportunity. I thought that Chelsea was good enough in possession where they didn't turn the ball over in bad areas, allowing then Fluminense to take advantage of one or two passes so that they can go on the attack. John Arias did not get involved in the game as much as they would have wanted him to do. And then you get exposed, if you're Fluminense, in the fact that we like to talk romantically about Thiago Silva.
Yeah.
But there is a reason as to why Thiago Silva is now playing back at Fluminense. And we saw that in the second goal. When Joao Pedro had him isolated in 1v1 situation, it's not like Joao Pedro giving a full step over, dip of the shoulder. No, he just cut the ball to the inside with a little change of pace. And Thiago Silva just couldn't quite move enough. And that's... Again, we're romantic about Fabio, the goalkeeper. Is he 1,000 years old? Well, okay.
Whoa. He's only 2 years younger than you.
Hey! Humbled.
I am mid-40s-ish.
Mid-40s-ish. That's what we're keeping.
Aren't we all?
Ish.
Aren't we all?
You've been there for a while, Shaq. Regardless, my point is that this is who Fluminense are. And again, getting to this point in the competition, great accomplishment. Seeing the fans of the Brazilian teams and the Argentinian fans as well, it's been outstanding for this competition. But when it gets down to it, I think the difference in terms of talent and the ability to perform at a high level, I think is significant. I think that was shown today.
All right, well, it's now time for our very first break. But guess what? ESPN FC will be back tomorrow here in New York. We are on every single day of the week on ESPN+.